Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Salute, Nick family. Welcome to the Just Nick and It recap show. Me and Tony Crow from Knicks and Brews is going to give our takes on the Knicks' victory last night against the Detroit Pistons at MSG in game one of the playoffs. We're gonna start with just overall what stood out for us, and then we'll get into individual players. We'll talk about what the Knicks may have gotten away with in this game that they need to shore up for game two, and just overall what we're looking for in game two. And I'm just going to start out really quick with two things. Two things that actually were question marks about the Knicks coming into the series, right? Nobody questioned the Knicks' talent. The defense, which defensive team was we going to get? We've seen them defend in particular games in stretches. We've seen them compete and defend for stretches of games. Which Knicks team were we going to get defensively? And, we can focus on that fourth quarter, but I thought throughout the entire game, the defense was definitely much better than we've seen in the regular season. But in the fourth quarter, the Knicks turned the defense up, including Big Cat. We'll talk about him as well. And not only did they hit their spots, rotated, played really good pick and roll defense. Shout out to Tom Thibodeau for taking Cat out of drop, bringing him up to the level of the screen, and Cat not fouling. So that you were able, to continue with that strategy. And the Knicks in that fourth quarter turned the defense up, created turnovers, and because they're so smart and they can get out in transition and make the right passes, we're able to actually capitalize off the turnovers. So that was the first thing that stood out for me. The second thing, and this is what I was really interested in with this Knicks team, was the mental fortitude, the mental toughness. If they had a lead, will they bend and not break if Detroit made a push to get back in the game? If they were down, would they be able to grit it and grind it out and get back in the game? And they showed that last night. Now, we could talk about whether they should have been down in the first place, but they showed me something about how they came out in that fourth quarter, and we're going to get into campaign, 5-second violation on the inbound play, then a 24-second violation, and then a 21 zip run in that fourth quarter showed me everything I needed to know about the Knicks in terms of their mental fortitude. And that's what's encouraging about me. Listen, Detroit are going to make adjustments. Of course, they're going to be smarter in game two, but the mental fortitude and the defense is what has me really encouraged about this series. That's what stood out for me overall. Obviously, we'll get into particulars. Shout out to the chat. So sorry that I'm late. Listen, I told Tony, I'm going to tell y'all this real quick. I went to a sunrise service with my aunt. I'm down in Georgia, rural Georgia, a 7 o'clock service. I said, Auntie, I got a 10 o'clock show. She said, oh, it should be about an hour. It's a sunrise service, Listen, we didn't get out of there till after 10, 3 hours. Breakfast programs, before we finally got out of there. So I was like, is this sunrise to sunset, or is this just a sunrise? Anyway, my apologies. I'm back. If there's any audio issues, I apologize. Listen, y'all know what it is when I come down here. Tony, Knicks and Bruises, what stood out for you overall last night?
Oh man, a lot of what you mentioned for sure. So if I'm gonna try to find some other answers, I definitely gotta shout out Tibbs and his adjustments throughout the game. I thought those were huge, particularly, and we'll get into it more, but particularly riding out the hot hand late in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? Which is something that we kind of questioned at times. His substitution patterns are usually set in stone and based off of maybe the time and not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily what's going on the court. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was huge of him. Uh, you mentioned the defense. I think that was great. The first half, it felt like um, Cade and Brunson were kind of canceling each other's
Mm-hmm.
with, with subpar performances, if you will.
Right. Correct.
You know what I mean? So it really
Mm-hmm.
was relegated to our role players and their role players,
Mm-hmm.
and you know who could withstand that. Um, all in all, I thought Detroit's toughness really stood out to me in that first half, first three quarters. Really, like you wouldn't think they had no playoff experience. You wouldn't think this was their first time there. Those guys came out ready to fight and gave us all we could handle those first three quarters. So
Yeah. Were you
that's kind of
surprised by that?
I didn't think it would take us that long to kind of figure things out schematically. But you got to give them credit too that they were confident in themselves considering they beat us 3 times out of 4 in the regular season. Cade was like all NBA in his games against us this year. I mean, he's
Right.
having a great year anyway, but I
Mhm.
think he's had the highest average against us this year out of any player. So, you know, it was great. It was great to see. We get into the details
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
things.
For sure. I actually, and there's a few I was listening to. Shout out to all the content creators, just going through listening to the shows last night, and a lot of them shared your opinion. But I expected, like, Detroit is a tough, gritty team throughout the entire season under Bickerstaff. They're gritty. You could just tell the way he talks in a press conference. You know what I mean? That's just their persona. So when I saw them being physical, I saw the Knicks being physical, as well. To me, the playoff experience is not necessarily how one starts the game. It's about closing. It's about clutch time where experience has the edge. When things start going in the opposite direction, if you have experience, you can really like focus in and you understand you're going to get an opportunity to get back in the game. You're not going to get too flustered, and I think that's what ultimately won out for the Knicks. They didn't, when they were down. I know some people said, "Oh, their heads are down." I didn't sense that, and I was like, "This is money time. Like, this is where I'm gonna see what this Knicks team."
You saying
Um,
that the Knicks heads was down?
I heard some people saying that the Knicks had, when they got down by 8 or 9, that they looked like their energy was sluggish. They looked like their heads was. I didn't see that.
I didn't see that
Um,
either.
yeah, I didn't see that. And one part of the playoffs, we could talk about schematics, and I thought Thibodeau was on point in terms of going from drop to bringing Cat to the level of the screen, going to the double lineup. So schematic changes and also rotational changes as well. But the players have to play the game as well. And right off the bat, they put Dorman on Hart. The Knicks went to a pick and roll. I said, "Oh my God, yes! Like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. Being on point, being able to, understand what they're doing and how you can take advantage of it." We could talk about whether we got as much as we could have out of Mikal Bridges, matchup. We could talk about that. But when we got down by 8, Cat made a shot, and Cat was making shots like just the degree of difficulty was really high. And then after he hit the time, like he wanted the ball for Josh Hart again, he pulled up for a 3 and got it. So what I'm saying is this is what the playoffs are about: wanting the ball. Like we need a score right here, and I want that smoke. Give it to me. Give it to me. I'm about to make this shot. The Knicks got like the timely stops and the timely shot, because you can score. At the end of the day, you got 28 points. You got 20. When did you get those points? Were they timely points when it mattered? When we really, not every basket counts, but when we really need a basket, did you come through? And Campaign with 11 points. We'll talk about him in that fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson, who, like to your point, did not have an efficient game through the half at least. Scored 12 points in the fourth. And then Karl Anthony Towns, both offensively and defensively, and deflections and I mean, it was just really good to see. Anything else all around before we get into like individual stuff?
Yeah, let's get into the details.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody just said, if I'm not too late, send me the link. I don't even know who that was because it's just coming up as a number. Oh, that's DJ Shuttle.
Shuttle, yeah. All aboard.
Yeah. I emailed it to him already. Hopefully he got it. Your thoughts on how, before we get into individual players, your thoughts on how we defended Cade. Did you like it? Did you not?
I think OG on him is a necessity by far. He took the challenge. You could see it in the effort and the performance that he was up for the challenge, and he was best suited for it. Anytime Mikal got switched on him, Mikal wasn't strong enough. You know, his technique was good.
Of the matchup. Yes.
You know, his technique was
great
good.
Point.
But the strength advantage for Cade was obvious. I mean, by the time the third quarter came around, I think Cade kind of adjusted to OG's strength, and he was able to kind of bully OG a couple times, you know, by the second half. But OG is by far the best suited defender for him. I love the fact that they trapped him more, they doubled him more. Yeah, make the other guys beat you. And shout out to the other guys. They were doing their things.
They did
as well. But I'd rather the other guys do it than Cade do it. And so I think we did a great job on him defensively. But like you was mentioning, guys stepped up all game long, all around, you know, not just on Cade. And you know, that's one of the things I preached probably by the middle of the year, when specifically with Mikal, but really goes to anybody. It's not about being the defensive stopper per se, because these guys in the league are talented. It's about moments. It's about having defensive stops in this moment, in that moment, when you need it. And I think that's something we've been able to do all year, even when the defense was shaky. You know, we would have these moments throughout the games where we get the key stop. And so it was like nice to see that, but from multiple different areas. Cat, you know, jumping in passing lanes, getting some blocks and steals. I think it's more to come for us, and this was a good starting point.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave my Cat defensive stuff to his segment, but you're right on point with that. You know, I listened to Cade Cunningham's press conference, and you know, he didn't talk specifically about OG. Basically, he was talking about the Knicks team defense. You know, just how, you know, they were doubling him. He never really had a lot of space, because to the eye it was just OG, but he got a lot of help as well, and that made it a little easier, you know, if you say. And I agree with you. You know, Bridges' technique was good. He was right where he needed to be. He was, you know, in front of him, contest the shot. But Cade's strength was able to create the space that he needed off of Bridges. And he did that, like to your point, a few times off of OG, where he created space, but not as much space as he created off of Bridges. And remember, when we started the game, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Josh Hart started on him. And I was like, really? Is that what? Or maybe it was a switch.
I think it was a switch. But Hart
It was a
played,
switch. Okay.
but Hart played good defense on him when he switched. Honestly, everybody did.
Yeah.
You know, it
Yeah.
didn't really matter who it was because the team scheme on him was pretty good. I think Hart did a good job in the few. I think I seen him on him at least 4 possessions throughout the game.
Hmm.
And he held his own. Josh Hart played some great defense. No matter who he was on, you know what I mean. I seen him get
Yeah.
switched on Tobias Harris a few times. Played him well. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point, and OG said this last night. He said you can't stop everything. Like you're going to give up something. And so in that first half, when Tobias Harris went off for, I don't know, 19, 20, maybe even 22 points, you know, it was because the Knicks were doing a really good job of getting the ball out of Cade's hand. And Harris, you know, he just hit shots consistently. But I will say, as good as the Knicks defense was, there was a few mental lapses. You know, one time on the pick and roll, both players stayed with Cade, leaving Harris open for the three. There was times where I think once or twice where Malik Beasley wasn't picked up in transition, and he was able to get easy looks. For the most part, not just the fourth quarter. For the most part, I thought the Knicks defense was solid, a step above what we've seen in the regular season, but there were some mishaps, along the way. It definitely wasn't perfect, but I will tell you this. If that team can play defense, like if this is their new floor as far as defense, and I'm not even talking about the fourth quarter, I'm just talking about the first three quarters. If that's them, that raises the ceiling of this Knicks team. Because if you think about how the Knicks played before the All-Star break, the offense was great. But the defense, we was like, there's no way. I don't care how great the offense is. Like, there's no way we're going to be able to win anything with this type of defense. If we can now get the defense, and that basically I'm talking about Karl Anthony Towns. That's basically, to me, the weak link in the Knicks defense, in my opinion. If we can get, I don't even need fourth quarter Cat, who was all over the place. You know what I mean? I just need a average Cat defensively, and the Knicks are a better team. So I don't want to hear anything about Cat can't play defense because he wears a size 22, and because the Cat is just. You think about what he did in this game, but he couldn't do it all season. So what is that telling me? Either you can't do it, or you're not doing it, or you're not putting in the effort, or you're too tired. Like there has to be a reason. Because if you can do it once, you can do it. You have the ability to do it. So it's going to be interesting to see which Cat we get defensively going forward.
One of the things.
Let me bring in Shuttle.
Yo. What's the slogan?
What's the slogan? Hold on. Let me tell you something. It's real simple. Beef stew, brown stew, or oxtail stew. Mixed in 5. Tobias Harris, Lucius Harris, Eric and Parrish. Nixon 5. Cade Cunningham.
Yes, sir.
Richie Cunningham. Green eggs and ham.
Nixon 5.
Nixon 5. Michael Beasley. Malik Beasley. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Nixon 5.
Yeah. Shout out to you, GJ Shuttle. Appreciate you
Pause.
joining us. Yeah. We were. Tony was about to say something. Then we'll get to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add about Cat. One of the things I've been asking from him is to stay out of foul trouble, have that availability to be on the floor, because I think a lot of times this year that killed us. So shout out to him for staying out of foul trouble and then being able to be aggressive late in the game and
Right.
be able to show some of those defensive attributes. A lot of times he got 4 or 5 fouls. Even if he want to turn it up, he can't, because
Right.
it becomes
That's
a
fair.
detriment. So I think him not being in foul trouble helps us in the long run, especially down the stretch where he could be as aggressive as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Shuttle, what stood out for you overall? We're going to get into individual players, but like just in general, what stood out for you in that game last night?
Playoff OG, next level OG. We talked about this when Brunson went out. I'm a little petty, so yeah, I'm one of the I told you so peoples. I said there's a next level for OG. I put it out there, and we got next level OG when Brunson went out, and we already saw playoff OG last year before he got hurt against Philly. This guy was defending Joel Embiid. I don't care if he was injured or not. Playoff OG might be a real thing, and Cade Cunningham is an All NBA level player. Say what you want. He could be first team or second team this year. Maybe not first, but second team All NBA. I wouldn't be surprised if he got that. I mean, like, he made this guy look like a rookie. He made this guy look like he didn't know what he was doing out there. And if we have defense like that from OG, like, to me, the offense is, like Josh Hart said in the postgame, it's a plus. But that's the level of defense that we need from OG. And 2 other things. Cat and Mitch playing at the same time. Saw some of that more than I expected. You know, I kind of expected, like, all right, we might see it a little bit because you needed more against the Celtics and potentially against the Cavs. So you don't want it to be the first time against those teams. But Detroit's not really, that tall of a team where you really need to do it so much. But in the time they did it, it was effective. Precious didn't get minutes, and I think Precious didn't get minutes because of this coaching strategy that Tibbs put in place. And quickly and lastly, Tibbs takes out the hot players. He keeps a certain rotation. He doesn't do that. What did he do? Campaign got hot. He left them in there, and I think that was significant. And even though I know Payne can be erratic, when he's hot and it's the playoffs, if there's anybody on the team that's maybe not in the starting lineup that I feel like is mentally capable when it comes to the playoffs and not being scared of the big moment and yada yada, I think he's absolutely one of the few guys that you have on the bench that you don't have to worry the moment is going to necessarily be too big for. And if he's going to be bad, he's just going to be bad because he's erratic. It's not he's going to be bad because the moment is too big for him, kind of thing. So yeah, those are 3 things that stood out for me in the game.
Yeah, for sure. Let me get to the super chats before we move on. Shout out to the art man formerly known as Steve. Champagne, cloudy skies, let it rain. Terrence Howard, come on, Maine. 2 words, campaign.
All right, no doubt. We inspiring the bars. That's what I'm talking about. shout
Frazier.
out to my guy with those bars. I love it.
Yeah, part of the Dope Soul family. Love the distribution of bench minutes. Salute, fam. And listen, Shamet was the first guy off the bench. He got 10 minutes in the first half. He didn't play well defensively. He didn't get any. It's like it's at least from the first game. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to show yourself. You know what I mean? And what you do in the first half is gonna let me know whether or not I'm gonna go back to you in the second half. And to your point, in the fourth quarter, when Cam was in for Brunson, when Brunson came back in, instead of coming in for Cam, he came in for Deuce, right? Deuce, I felt, had some really good moments defensively. His shooting was off. I got a little scared with the air, but like if you miss a shot and it's on the front of the rim, you missed a shot. When it's air balls and you miss it, I'm like, listen, don't tell me the moment is too big for Deuce now. We'll see. He'll bounce back in the second half.
Listen,
I'm pretty.
Listen,
Yeah.
Deuce had a good season. you know, but it's not like, you know, we had playoff Deuce last playoffs. Like he was average in the playoffs. He wasn't really spectacular in the playoffs last year. Campaign, on the other hand, we've seen like, wow, who is this guy? What is this guy doing out there? You know what I mean? And um, listen, I'm not saying we don't need Deuce. I'm not saying he won't have a good game. I'm not saying he won't shoot well. But you know, listen, Deuce's minutes are gonna probably be reduced right now.
You don't think it'll be game to game?
Hopefully it is, and then hopefully that also gives the coach more credit, and hopefully some of the people that say Tibbs got to go will acknowledge that and respect it, and you know, and that's how it plays out, because that's what we saw in game one. You know, Shammy was hot to end the season. He got his minutes in the first half. You know what I mean? And Cam was hot. He left him in. So that's the type of stuff that I think many of the fans have been calling for from the coach, and hopefully we get more of that.
Right.
And just to piggyback, it's not just Cam was hot, right? Because like Queen was saying, Deuce was shooting air balls and shooting over the rim. Like, so coach got to recognize that, or coach recognized that, make the right substitutions. So it's not just reading the hot hand, but who don't have it today, who seems a little shaky today. And I think that's why we didn't see Shamit late, and that's why he went with that decision with Cam to stay in and Deuce to come out.
This is the flip side of that. When do you have that quick hook, and when do you allow a player to work through it? Brunson didn't have a really good game he wasn't efficient, I should say, in the first half. So is this more about your non-stars, in terms of quick hook, when to allow them to play through it?
It is, but when you have a guy like Cam hot, it makes that decision a little bit easier. Of you know what I mean? Now you're not grasping for straws. You saying, okay, specifically, Deuce don't got it right now. Cam got it. I can make that change a lot easier. Shamit don't got it right now. Let me give maybe a starter will get some extended minutes. Unfortunately, in that situation, but I think it will change from game to game. I think Tibbs is going to read the room, if you will.
Yeah. How confident are you in the Knicks repeating their defensive effort? And again, to me, the fourth quarter was a step up. But even through the first three quarters, I thought it was better than we'd seen. Is that the new floor for the Knicks in the playoff?
I don't know. I think right now you have to look at matchup by matchup. So I wouldn't look at, the Celtics or, any other future matchup and say, the Knicks floor is what we saw last night or what we get in this series, because matchups
defensively, I'm talking.
Right. Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Defensively, how you match up against another team, is going to dictate, I think, what that floor could potentially be. But specifically for the rest of this series, I think it could be and should be similar to what we got from this first game. The fact is that you've got Cade Cunningham, who is a great player, and if you can really focus on him and make his life difficult, the other guys are like streaky players. Like there's no real offensive juggernaut on the team per se. Beasley could get hot. Harris could have a hot game or a hot half. Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Shout to Harris, half hour Hill, Strong Island, what's up? But, right now you're on the Detroit Pistons. So we ain't really worried about all that. Right. But I don't think that Detroit has enough offensive weapons when you put, OG's defense, Deuces off the bench, Mitch off the bench, when they just don't have enough firepower, I don't think. So I think, you should be able to make this a gentleman's sweep with some really high level defense like we saw game one.
Yeah, I mean, I think between Hardaway, Harris, and Beasley, they scored 64 points. But I personally don't think that that's something that Detroit can count on every single game, right? I don't see that as their, as their game. And even with that, they lost, So I'm super encouraged, by what the Knicks should be able to do in this series. I had the Knicks winning in 5 anyway, but seeing what I saw last night made me more confident in it. Tony, as far as the Knicks defense, do you feel like this is going to be, in terms of effort, in terms of execution, it wasn't perfect, that this is going to be the Knicks going forward defensively?
I think it is. My only critique would be it felt like, to me, it felt like Detroit was playing harder. They had more effort than the Knicks early in the game, first half, third quarter. So that's just the slight tweak that I would you can't look like they're playing harder than you. You know what I mean? Our MO a couple years ago was, no matter who we were playing, no matter what the team was, you knew the Knicks was going to go out there and play harder than the other team. Whether we won or not was a different question, but you knew night in and night out that was going to be the MO. It didn't feel that way. Not that, like, I'm trying to take it away from the Knicks and put it on Detroit, like give them their credit. But the Knicks, you gotta play a little bit harder to start the game. You know?
Tone, I think that is some of actually what made people say this is a tough matchup for the Knicks, and that you have to really be worried about Detroit, is because they're not necessarily an offensive juggernaut type of team. The Knicks, some may say, are a bit soft this year, and this team. This is not last year's Knicks. This is this year's Knicks. And while the offensive firepower is all over the place, you could argue the team's a little soft. So a team like Detroit, who's not playing that way, they're playing like a throwback 90s, even a couple years ago, Knicks type of squad. So, that's what you're faced with. And you got, like you said, you got to bring it. And it can't be like, this team is out muscling you, out hustling you. Like, you got to really get out there and put the pedal down.
Because if you, my thought process behind that is, and this, I think I could use the fourth quarter as evidence, but if you start the game with that same intensity, I think they're young enough and inexperienced enough that they could fold early. You know what I mean? If you look at their demeanor, and this is why I was asking you when you said they look like their heads was down. I'm like, who, the Knicks? Because if you look at that fourth quarter during that run, Detroit was crushed. They didn't know what hit them. You know what I mean? Like 2 timeouts in that span. You had Beasley like yelling at the rest of the team. You had them gathering in huddles like when a free throw is getting shot. Like, we got to get together. We got to talk about this. We got to figure it. You know what I mean? Like, I think Tobias was arguing with the ref. You got Beasley like, come in, man. The rest of us is right here huddling. Stop arguing. Come over here and let's talk this thing out. But you could take them out early in the game, I believe, if you neutralize their effort or match their effort, and because that keeps you in the game, that keeps them in the game, and that's been their MO all year. Like you said, Shuttle, like they don't stop fighting. You know what I mean? And part of that is instilled from last year. You think about who they were last year, with the worst record ever in the history of the league, and they were losing games by 5 points. You know what I mean? They just didn't know how to close the games. They didn't know how to finish the games. So this is why they made the huge jump, because they've been fighting. They was fighting from last year.
Right. Yeah, I didn't see that though. Like, I don't care how the Knicks would have came out yesterday. You're not putting Detroit to bed in the first quarter. Like, I just feel like just that makeup of that team, of that team. I, in a way, the coaching staff and the veterans on that team was preparing them for what type of series this is going to be. To me, I didn't think the Knicks didn't play hard. I didn't think the Knicks were being bullied and pushed over. I just didn't see that in the Knicks. I felt like the Knicks came out with the proper energy. Detroit came out with the proper energy. I felt that the Knicks experience would win out. Like in terms of a team being young, to me, didn't necessarily mean that we were going to put them away early, but it just meant that if it got down to a close game, our experience and our shot making would win out. But I'm going to spend some time going over the game, and maybe I'll see what y'all see. But I thought the Knicks were pretty pretty physical. Like they took Duran he had some offensive rebounds, don't get me wrong, but he didn't have a major impact on this game. Stewart didn't have a major impact on this game. I thought Thompson played Brunson really tough. The Knicks were able to get him. I just felt like the Knicks were unfazed by whatever it is Detroit was trying to do. And
they didn't fold. They
definitely did. Detroit went on a run. That's going to happen. They're a good team. They're a good team. They went on a run. They got the lead. But the way the Knicks came back, and steamrolled back in that fourth quarter, was encouraging. And I hope this is the type of defense and mental fortitude we see for the rest of the playoff. Based on this win, do you feel more encouraged by the Knicks' ability to win this series, or this is what you thought anyway?
Well, I want to first say, Steph, to your last point, to Tony's point, I think that the Knicks came out like it felt like it was like a boxing match, which you hear a lot of times with other sports analogies, right? Like it's like, all right, we're not gonna, I'm not gonna come in blazing super, hard against you per se. Pause, and we're gonna be able to withstand these first few rounds, or jabbing and haymakers or whatever you're going to do. But then when we get to the last 4 rounds of the match, is when I'm going to really take it up a notch. So I think that the Knicks, with their experience and the superior level of play that the team has, I don't think that they're gonna get. It's not like when you got down 30 to Boston. You know what I mean? Like I don't really feel like Detroit has the capability to really do that. Like they're more of a grinded out, win a close game. Maybe they win by 8 or 10 if they're going to win a game, but it's not going to be a 20, 30 point blowout. They just don't strike me to be able to do that. So these guys, Knicks should be in every game. And I believe that the experience should lend them to win these fourth quarters and in the plays that matter most down the stretch.
Hey, Shuttle, I called Queen last night, and when I told her the same thing I just finished saying, but I said it did kind of feel like the Knicks were testing how deep, how hard can the Detroit push, you know what I mean, just to see what their maximum level was, and then, all right, we're gonna take it up this notch down the stretch, and I don't know. Some people agree, some people don't. Sim doesn't think this was their maximum effort, Detroit, and they'll actually show some more fight. But it kind of did feel like the Knicks were testing their fight level. Let me see how hard they're gonna fight, how hard they're gonna push, and then see when they get to that max level. All right, let's turn it up a notch. Let's show them what the next level really is.
Yeah, and to your point, the Knicks showed that they have another level. I'm not sure what the next level for Detroit is. The Knicks, have a talented team, and our argument has been they haven't reached their ceiling. Like there's more to this team. They just haven't reached it. I think Detroit might be playing at their ceiling. I'm not sure what the next level is. Now I know the coach is going to, they're going to watch film. They're going to make adjustments. But what happens when you have a talented team, you should be able to counter, because just think about the versatility on this roster. If you want to go offense, if you want to go defense, if you want to go big, if you want to go small. Like people talk about the two big lineups. We rarely played the 2 point guard lineup. I think Cam and Brunson played 119 total minutes, for the season. So the different things we can do roster wise, rotation wise, that other teams won't, the Detroit, for example, won't be able to do. So I'm interested to see what the adjustments are going to be. But I think whatever they are, the Knicks will be able to counter it. And let's not act like the Knicks didn't leave some meat on the bone. Like, let's not act like the Knicks didn't, get away with some things that they need to shore up from, for game 2, missing people in transition. I'm like, yo, Beasley is the best 3-point shooter on the team. Like, he can't get free for no shots. You know what I mean? And I think he got free like once or twice. Before we go into individual, and then I'll let Shuttle pick who he wants to talk about first. Then Tony, you could piggyback off of him, and then you could pick the next person. Anything you've seen? You know what? We'll talk about that because that'll probably help us when we talk about game 2. DJ Shuttle, who stood out for you? Who do you? Multiple players, but who do you want to start with?
Man, I just need to see. I just need to see the same defense from OG Anunoby, because I feel like the whole key to this Detroit team on offense is Cade Cunningham. And if you can neutralize him, that basically will shut down the rest of this operation. It's like he's the heart and pulse of the team on offense. And as we know, if you got a bad heart, nothing else is going to work in your system. So let's keep Cade with similar numbers. 40% from the field, 4, 5, 6 turnovers, and and make other people. Make other people beat you. Like you said, the 64 points from the others is likely not as sustainable. And I'm gonna prefer that we put the ball in their hands and they continue to be the ones that try to carry the team instead of Cade Cunningham. So yeah, I just need more superior OG defense, and like you also touched about, Cat now with the healthy Mitch, them being able to play some time together. Maybe it's the playoffs, so Cat feels like, I could step it up more now. It's nothing. I don't got to save none for the season. I don't got to save none because Mitch is not here. All those type of things. But my primary is OG's defense on Cade.
Yeah. Before we move on, anything you want to piggyback as far as OG, Tony?
I mean, phenomenal. Let's keep that same energy. It looked like he mentally took the challenge. You know what I mean? Like, he talks about himself as a defender and he should be defensive player of the year. But it really looked like this was the first time it didn't feel like it was an assignment. It looked like he took the job. You know what I mean? Like, it looked like this is
I got him. I got him.
It felt that way. You know what I mean? So I want to see that same energy continue. The results, you know what I mean? Like, that's not entirely up to him. You know what I mean? That's how Cade adjusts and if he figures it out. But that same type of energy, keep that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, OG shot making in the first half, we needed it. Like, remember, Brunson did not shoot well in that first quarter, still trying to figure 13. Out. But he was still getting to his spots, though. He was just, he was
brimming out. Everything was just brimming out. A short.
Yeah, he was still getting to his spots, though. But he just wasn't efficient. And OG shot making, his like the turnaround, jumping, the lane, fade away, the 3-point shooting, getting to the rim. Like, to Tony's point, in this series, you can't be going to the rim with a layup. You gotta go to the rim like Shamet trying to bang it, But OG was phenomenal in that first quarter. And I do think, I don't know this for sure, but I do think in a perfect world, Tom would love if Bridges could cover Cade so that OG can roam and be on
Yes,
that back line of defense. But
I
we
agree.
just can't. And the physicality, we talked about it. Bridges is where he's supposed to be, hands in his face, whatever, but he's just able to clear the space he needs to get off a shot. And OG is just he just makes it tough for him. And when you look at OG's body, his ability to navigate a screen, like this is not a thin dude. His ability, and think about it, he's not playing a wing. He's not playing a Tatum or Bryant. He's not playing a wing player. He's playing a point guard. That means you're the point of attack defender. That takes a little more energy, right? Like navigating screens and things like that. He's like a wizard out there. The way he's able to contort his body and get through screens and below screens. His
Who
defensive IQ is just on another level. Together with his strength, um, yeah, it's just another level.
it was a female
Tony,
announcer. Was that Doris Burke? She's talking.
yeah,
I forgot who she was referring to. On the Pistons, but she kept saying, "Look, he's standing up straight. He's gonna get blown by. He's getting blown by." And then a couple of plays later, he's like, "You see OG stretch out for his defensive stance." She's like, "Yeah, you see, that's how you're supposed to be in the stance. You're not gonna get by OG." You know what I mean? I
yeah,
just thought it was dope
yeah.
how she was pinpointing that.
Yeah, for those of us who grew up in this era, you remember Plastic Man, the cartoon? That's OG, man, the way he's able to contort his body. I think they brought a stretchologist onto the onto the Knicks team, or he worked with a stretch out because the way he's contorting his body, like he's just really you got to watch him. I mean, we do, but even more pinpoint and watch him more on defense for a couple of possessions. He's just phenomenal, and shout out to him that we have that weapon, and that's really what it is. Kate Cunningham still had 21.6 rebounds, 12 assists, but 38% from the field, 25% from three. And that's what you're going to do with the great ones. You're not shutting
Make
them
it
down,
difficult.
but you want them to get 21 points on 21 and that's what we have. And that's what we have in OG. Who else stood
And he,
out for you
and
other than
and he
OG,
had
Tony?
6 turnovers.
Okay, and he had 6 turnovers.
That's
Correct.
crucial.
Like
And
triple double.
shout out to my Knicks. The Knicks were already number 3 in points off turnover in the league, and they didn't disappoint last night either. I mean, every time they turned the ball over, it was a layup, not an extra possession, a
Yeah.
layup.
And to your point, Queen, even in the first half, the numbers was good as far as turnovers and points off turnovers.
Yes, it
I'm
was.
sure after that fourth quarter, it got crazy. You know what I mean? Because that was crazy. For me,
Yeah.
my player is gonna, shout out to OG. I'm gonna go with Cam. With that 11 points in
Facts.
the fourth quarter, crucial. And all year we've been questioning, like, do we got a dog on this team? We need a dog. He came in and he was the dog. He was drooling from the mouth, spit hanging from his from his lip. I think that spit was there for about 4 possessions until a timeout where Brunson told him, like, yo, wipe wipe your face. He was barking at Stewart. He was barking at Beasley.
Schroeder.
You know what I mean? Schroeder, like, he was out there just salivating, you know what I mean? And his post game comments are just waiting for this moment. You know what I mean? Like, it looked like that.
You
I was
did say that.
expecting it, but I was expecting it in like game 3, game 4. You know what I mean? To come out the gate, game 1 ready, it just shows his value, like from the beginning. You know what I mean? From game 1, just showing his value, things we knew he was capable of. He had a great game against us last year. We knew he was capable of it, but to do it,
He had more than one.
yeah, but to do it, right off the jump, and I guess I could throw Tibbs in there for allowing him to. You know what I mean? Allowing him to stay out there, but I think he was one of the few people that was able to attempt layups. You know what I mean? And actually make the layup and then not get blocked. Yeah, back-to-back big threes. He was pressuring the ball. I mean, everything he does good when he's good, he did tonight. Well, he did last night.
And let's not forget the 5-second violation to start the fourth quarter. You know, he was phenomenal. And you know, he can be streaky, and sometimes I don't really appreciate the times when he just comes down and pull up for a three before we even get across half court. But to your point, your earlier point, Tony, he's not somebody that's was that shuttle. He's not somebody that's afraid of the moment at all. You know, he may miss shots, but it's just because he missed the shot. You know, not because he's afraid of the moment. And you're gonna need this in the playoffs. You're gonna things bog down a lot in the playoffs. So sometimes you need your best player to go on a heater, you know, because you're just not getting anything. So you need your best player to create, you know, to score for the team. But things bog down also where anything you can get off the bench really helps. And campaign, you know, there's a lot of other factors, but he was one of the main reasons the Knicks were able to pull out and win this game. You know, he was the main reason the Knicks were able to win this game. And then when you have him and Brunson in there, now Brunson doesn't have to handle the ball all the time. Brunson can play off the ball. There's different things you can do when you have 2 point guards in there. So again, we have the double big lineup that we can lean in at times, but maybe now we can lean into this at other times. The other thing I'll say about the playoffs is every game is different. And the new word I'm hearing around the Knicks is reset. Like Brunson said it in the press conference. Tom Thibodeau said it in the press conference. You got to reset. Every game is different. So yesterday it was Cam. Last night it was Cam. Tomorrow it might not be Cam. Tomorrow it might be Shamet if he gets another opportunity. Or tomorrow it might be, you know, it might be Bridges. You know, the thing about the playoffs is every game presents a new challenge. So you can't just be like, oh, well, this is what OG did in game one. This is going to, you know, they might have something for OG, then somebody else may have to step up. That's just how the playoffs are. It's like continually recognizing, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do in this game? You know, Stewart is going to come back. He's probably going to have a different game. Doran's going to have, you know, now you want to focus on Harris. Harris might have 9 points. It might be somebody else that blow up. That's just the nature of the playoffs. You got to be ready for it all. And you got to be ready in the moment to make that adjustment, both the coaches and, you know, and the players.
That's the key word. I was just about to say adjustments, because, you know, when you get to this point, you're playing one team, like the film study with all your staff is now dedicated solely to this one team you're playing against. You're breaking down the tape and seeing what did they do against us that worked. How can we counter that as an alternative? And the Knicks have to be like, all right, well, we did that today. We got to have a different strategy, you know, for game two. So to your point again, it has to be a game-by-game basis. Correct. And the strategies have to adjust as needed. You have to have your audibles in play and in pocket. And, you know, campaign was magical game one. I'm not necessarily expecting that game two. You know, if we get it, great. But, you know,
it's some baseline things that won't change, right? The defensive effort, right? The full court, the pressure in full court, and you know, there's things that have to be a staple, but the results, you know, those are
needing a team to defend Cade. That's not going to change. Yeah.
One thing he also said in the press conference was, you know, immediately he's like, yeah, you know, I feels good, but that's it. It's over. It's about next game now. So even that little mentality right there at the post game to know, all right, I'm happy. I played well. I've been waiting for this moment. but this moment's out
Right.
the way. It's time for the next moment.
Right. Yeah. And the Knicks, you're gonna have to find different ways to win in the playoffs. You might win on defense, you might win on offense, you might win with a player like Cam coming off the bench and having a great game. You might win with one game with Bridges pouring in 30. Like this, you're gonna have to find different ways to win in the playoffs. It's not gonna be the same formula. But to your point, Tony, there does need to be some baseline things, that needs to happen. I think I'm going to go with, in terms of the play I want to talk about next and who stood out for me other than those two, would be Karl Anthony Towns. The defense that he played, not just in the fourth quarter. Now, the fourth quarter, like, he was in the passing lane. Remember, got the steal. But even before that, he rotated over and got a block. And I'm not sure what quarter it was, but prior to the fourth quarter, I thought he was more active on defense. They didn't do the drop coverage with him, which is with Cam. With Cade, is you just can't be in drop. They put him up to the level of the screen. Now, there was twice when Cade Cunningham was able to split it and get behind him and dunk it. So it wasn't perfect, but it was much better than the drop coverage. And it just makes me think about, is that just the energy of the moment where you just have more energy in the playoffs? Is it just the urgency of the playoffs where you just know every possession counts? But if we can get on like 60% of what we saw from Cat on the defensive end on a regular basis, to me, it changes the ceiling of this team. Changes the ceiling of the team. Say that again, Shutter.
I said you said 60%. That's crazy. But but I'm just going. I gotta temper your excitement a little bit, Steph. And I hate to.
Okay.
I hate to be this guy, but respectfully, this is the Detroit Pistons. This is not a team that's an offensive juggernaut. They got one player, and the other guys are hot today, not hot today guys on the roster. Durant is not, he's not Porzingis. He's not, one of these guys that is going to make you worry about the 3-point shot where Cat is weak at that. So, I just think Detroit's lack of offensive, power, makes it a little easier for Cat. Maybe he played a little better. Maybe he put a little bit more pep in his step, and yeah,
that's all I'm talking about.
I just think that he's flat-footed, and I just think that like he needs a good off-season of handball on Rockaway Beach or somewhere where we can work on your lateral and your lateral mobility, because I don't know what size foot he is, but it just seemed like his foot is cemented into the ground often when I'm watching this guy out there. So I just don't really have high hopes for him on defense. Great passer.
What's the difference? What is the difference between you rotating over against Detroit and you so if you want to tell me, Detroit, Boston is faster. So when you try to rotate over against Boston, because you're slow, you're not going to get there in time, you're going to pick up a foul. Fine. But you got to rotate over. That's the point I'm trying to make with Cat. Like, there, a big part of what I'm seeing from Cat is a lack of effort. Like, it's not that he's rotating consistently and he's getting in foul trouble because he's slow. His lateral quickness is not there, and he's getting there late. I can accept that. But I'm saying this guy just doesn't rotate over at all. He just watches guys go. That's all I'm saying. Be where you're supposed to be. And that's what I saw yesterday in Cat. Matter of fact, somebody drove the lane. I saw Cat come from behind with a block. Now, if you want to tell me against Boston, they're going to be faster, he probably wouldn't have got there in time. He probably would have fouled them. All right, I can understand that. But what I'm trying to say for Cat, what I want to see is the defensive effort and you consistently hitting your assignments. And I get it. the results against a better team may not be as good as the results against a Detroit. I get it. But I still feel like your process has to be the same, even if the results differ from team to team, if that makes sense.
In the ideal world, and in theory, yes. In practice and in application, in the real world, against a team that psychologically you feel like there's no way this team is going to beat you, and you walk into the game like that, I think it allows you to muster up a little bit more of that effort and that energy. You know what I mean? But when you're playing against the world champs and you got Tatum in front of you, I mean, there were plenty of times he was like, it seemed like he was in position against Tatum, and Tatum just blew by him, like on like back-to-back plays. I'm just using Tatum in Boston as an example, just to kind of differentiate. Detroit is not Boston, and against Detroit, yeah, I do believe we can get a better defensive showcasing, and I expect it. Again, it's Durant and Beasley and Stewart and Harris and Schroeder. Like, yeah, you better play better defense against this team. You know what I mean? And I expect more. I
To,
just I just kind of got my excitement measured going past
to,
against other teams.
I
to
mean, I hear you in terms of the results against the team, but the effort just has to be there. And to
this
me,
is
I don't think it is. I don't
this
think it's consistent.
this is basically
Yeah.
what Shutter was saying earlier, where when he was saying the defense is the defensive level is gonna be based off the opponent. If I'm, you know what I mean, based off of with Detroit, he's saying yes, we could probably maintain this level, or even Cat specifically maintain this level defensively. He's saying, I, I think you're saying you're not so sure when the next opponent comes up. It may be different, and then the follow,
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So from opponent to opponent, he's saying it's gonna dictate how good defensively he can be or we can be.
that's it.
All right, we'll see. I
I
can't
think
say I
both
totally agree, but we'll see.
these could,
But
could
I
be
get
true.
I get what you're saying. The better the team is, it doesn't matter how much you try. The better the team is, you know, if you don't have the defenders, it's just going to be hard. It's just going to be hard um,
That
to defend them. It's going to be hard, even schematically, to kind of make up for. I mean, I get that. If you have non-shooters, there's you don't have to be flying around. You can stay in the key. You can help on a Cade Cunningham. You play Detroit. I mean Boston. You're going to be spread out. You're going to have to cover more ground on those rotations. So I definitely get that. I'm not sure all of what we've seen from the Knicks defensively was just inability. I don't think it's always been inability. Um,
Well, we
but
had a
yeah,
lot of injuries this year. A lot. I mean, let me take that back. There's Mitch missed a lot of
60.
games. You know what I mean? And um, he absolutely has made a difference this
hmm
year. I don't think that. I mean, I'm not trying to look past Detroit, and that's you got to respect these guys. But I'm just saying, if you're playing a different team, right, and Towns is not cutting it on defense, like Mitch has been around long enough that like I could see Tibbs leaving Mitch in if you need him, and either playing with Towns or Towns sitting down. If you got to really pony up the defense, and I'm not saying like you're gonna bench Towns. That's not my point. But I'm just saying
hmm
like maybe Towns will play a bit more minutes less than what his average typically would be if you need to muster up some greater defense. Again, not looking past Detroit because I don't think that's really going to be much of an issue here.
hmm
But just looking forward.
yeah. And then I also want to say, you know, he hit some really big shots for us, difficult degree of difficulty shots for us, timely shots for us. The 5 straight points he scored in the fourth quarter, um, and wanting the ball in that in that situation. He was super efficient at
That's for
21
sure.
points on just 14 shots. Do you think we should find a way to get him more looks, or do you think it's just a game by game basis?
Um, More looks, more shots, for sure. I I've been kind of holding on to it until the like we get into the Brunson part, and but Brunson, I think there needs to be better shot distribution, like spread out a little bit more evenly, especially Cat and Brunson. I think should be very close to the same amount of shot attempts, and then I feel the same way for OG and Mikal. They need to be. They don't got to be up there 21, 22, where I think Brunson and Cat should both be, but get them closer to 20, with Mikal and OG. But as far as Cat specifically, that's still something that is something we got to tinker with. We got to figure out how to seek out those mismatches, seek out those lineups. Somebody I think Kerry Cox in the chat mentioned, Tobias Harris on Cat. That can't be something that we go 5-6 possessions and Cat doesn't try to do something in the post against Harris. You know what I mean?
They had Thompson on him one or two times, I think. Also, I mean,
yeah,
he's a great defensive player, but I'm just saying.
But yeah, you gotta say, you gotta take that as disrespect. You know what I mean? You gotta take that.
Even if you make a turnover, miss the shot, but give it to him.
So I do think we do need to find those mismatches, not just with Cat though, with everybody, and utilize the same kind of schemes that specifically Detroit used against us. It seemed like, especially the first half, they were targeting Brunson and Cat on every single possession. Mostly Brunson, but every single play in that first quarter was a targeted play. It was targeting Brunson. If not, it was targeting Cat. You know what I mean? We need to kind of implement that a lot more. You know what I mean? Target guys. Take things personal. Take advantage of mismatches. But overall, just even out the shot distribution. 22 for Brunson, 22 for Cat. That would be a little bit more.
Is that something you go out seeking, or do you allow the game to dictate that, and it just falls where it falls?
It can fall where it falls, but I also think you got to be mindful of it. And now I'm speaking of Brunson. You 2 for 13. There's no reason you should be 2 for 13. Not saying you shouldn't shoot that bad. I'm saying you shouldn't have taken that many shots to kind of try to, you know what I mean? To try to figure out 2 for 13. It should have been 2 for 10. You know what I mean? Three of them shots, I'm gonna say you shouldn't have took, and you should have said, I don't got it right now. Let me seek out a mismatch. You can't tell me out of those 13 shots, you couldn't have found 3 of them that was a better shot, a better possession for somebody else. That's what I mean. Just be mindful, not count the shots. You know what I mean? Not count. Oh, I'm at 10 right now. I got it. Right. I got a chip.
Right.
But just be mindful.
Can we double down on the Cat thing though, please? Because this is a strategy that teams have been implementing, putting smaller players on him, and it absolutely has to be. We talked about it earlier in the season. I know we did a couple of times, but now we're in the playoffs. It's like, all right, like stop playing around. And if they're not gonna put Duren on him, if Duren's on him, he's one of the key players on their team. Not necessarily scoring wise, but just his shot blocking, his rebounding. He's the guy. If there's anybody I'd love to get in foul trouble and get on the bench, is definitely him. Cade, I don't really see. He's not really a foul prone guy. But Duren, I think you can get him in foul trouble, and I think that's why teams also put these other smaller players on Cat and think that he's going to stay at the 3-point line. No, to your point, Tone, JB, you're not really hot right now. does Cat have a mismatch? He does. We got to give it to him. We got to get it to him. You got to tell the rest of the team. You got to tell the coach. You know, like you can't be waiting for the coaches to tell you this. Like, if you're in the NBA, like I said this before, I'll say it again. I'm the point guard. Like, I don't need the coach to tell me to maximize a mismatch. You got to see
Right.
it and you got to just
Right.
do it. And you know, if they're gonna do these smaller players, man, Beasley, Thompson, Harris, Cat has to exploit these guys. He did in the second half, and like that's something you should be coming out the gate looking out for. Are they putting the smaller guy on Cat? No, I run the regular offense. They put somebody smaller on him. We're going to Cat until either he doesn't score or they change up their defensive scheme.
Even Macau, what do you, I think he was like 4 for 9. So
Right.
you know what I mean? Just acknowledge, like, oh man, Macau hasn't taken a shot in a while. Let me find something for him. You know what I mean? And again, this is not me knocking Brunson. I get what he does and why he does it. I'm just saying that's something that could be an adjustment moving forward,
Yeah, I mean,
and
we can, if we
and can
want, we
help
could
the
just
team.
transition into Brunson now. I mean, I think, we've been talking about this all season. I talked about it coming into the season about just the floor game and just knowing when. But I also think we can't, just because you don't get the results doesn't mean the decision wasn't a good decision. You know, you could take good shots and miss, but they were good shots within the
Mhm.
flow. I'm just saying in general, they were good shots within the flow of the offense. You just missed them. That just because you missed, that doesn't mean that it was a bad shot. And you could score 40, but it was just you against the whole team all night long. Doesn't mean that that was a good performance. So I think a lot of times we look at the results to determine whether the decision and the process was good, and that's not always the case. So it's gonna remain to be seen over these next few years if Brunson remains the point guard, or if we have to do a la Allen Iverson, right? When they brought in Eric Snow, because they just didn't feel like and that balance was there. And Allen Iverson still got most of the shots, but he didn't have that responsibility, right?
Mhm.
That remains to be seen in terms of Brunson's growth process. But I do want to push back on the narrative that he's selfish. He's just trying to pad his stats. He's just trying to make himself look good. I just don't think that's Brunson. Like, if you want to tell me he hasn't got that mix yet, if you want to tell me he's more of a scoring guard, um, that is having some challenges like mastering tempo, mastering who needs to, taking advantage of mismatches, mastering this guy hasn't gotten a shot, knowing your teammates. I need to get this guy off early because I know I can get my, like, if you want to say like those are things that he's struggling with and trying to figure out, I can definitely get with that. But it's hard for me to get with the narrative that he's a selfish player that just wants to score and um, pad his stats, and he's not about the so you can see how he play, and then what are you attributing it to? And I'm attributing it to he needs to get better, and others are looking at his play and attributing it to the fact that he's just trying to pad his stats. It's just not
Yeah, I
something
think.
I will buy into. Yeah,
Nah,
go
I was
ahead,
gonna
Tom.
say that's far fetched. Like I would never call him selfish. I try to look at it from a standpoint of an adjustment that he has to become accustomed to. You know what I mean? Like he's as these years are going by, he's getting better and better teammates around him. You know what I mean? But his job has been his job since he's been here, right? Or if you even if you want to say since Randall went down, you know what I mean? His job, his role became what it was. He's got to figure out when to reel it back. That I don't have to be that guy at all times in every moment. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't attribute that to selfishness. I would attribute it to just the natural learning progression. You know what I mean? At times we will need you to be that, but you got to figure out when to insert yourself, when take a step back, when to find your guy. But yeah, I would never put it as a selfish thing. It's a learning curve.
Dare I say it? This is why the combo of him and Randall were actually so effective, because he could actually give the ball to Randall, and Randall could initiate the offense. Unfortunately, Bridges has been subpar in this area where prior to the season I thought he'd be more of a factor there. And, between Bridges, OG, and Hart, you don't really have guys that can initiate plays and initiate the offense, and he can kind of play off of them. Cam a little bit, Deuce a little bit, when he plays with them, which is why some of those lineups are very effective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cat in the high post is great. I mean, I ran that same offense in high school. Putting your center in the high post and see Cat making some of these wild passes and doing his thing and all that. But I think running through Cat in the high post is probably the best way to get the ball out of Brunson's hands, and I'm sure by next season we'll see that being ran even more effective.
Yeah, but this is the thing though. And I'm not sure how much of this is Thibodeau. I'm not sure how much of this is Brunson. When we talk about the Knicks leaving a lot of meat on the bone in terms of their poor recognition of where the mismatches are and how to take advantage of the mismatches. When we talk about we don't have anybody else to play make, I think Bridges can play make. But is it his lack of assertiveness? Is it scheme? While the ball is not in his hand more for Brunson to play off the ball. Now, I did notice in the first half, with Thompson on Brunson, making it difficult for him to bring the ball up, that there were times when Hart would bring the ball up, and there were times when Bridges would leave the ball up to kind of relieve that pressure so we're not spending all of the shot clock trying to get the ball up the court. Fine. Besides that, though, why don't we use Bridges more on the ball as a secondary playmaker? Now, is part of it that he's expending so much energy as the point of attack defender that Thibodeau doesn't want to also give him, that responsibility? But I just think there's more we can get out of Mikal. Well, first, before we get into Mikal, anything else on all of these subjects is kind of related. So you talk about one and go into the anything else major on Brunson before we move into Mikal?
I mean, we gotta at least mention the ankle, twisting the ankle and stepping out of the court or whatever. Hopefully. My question, I guess, would be any concerns with the ankle. He obviously finished the game. He came back and finished the game, so that was a good sign. But I guess any concerns with the ankle?
Well, maybe he'll do a little trust, and trust people, a little more. But yeah, definitely concerned about the ankle. One thing I know about Brunson, if he can go, he's going to go. The thing about him is just recognizing how effective he can be. And if you can't, that you're not 100%, lean on your teammates a little more.
That's all I got on Brunson. He's still Captain Clutch.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, he's earned the right to be who he is. I mean, he's averaging 30 points per game in the playoffs as a Knick. He's shooting 50% from the field in the playoffs as a Knick. He's been clutch fourth quarter as a Knick. I mean, clutch player of the year candidate again. I mean, it's not really too much we can say other than just recognize the mismatch for Cat and get Cat the ball. That's my only ask of Brunson right now.
And I would say not just Cat, wherever the mismatch is. If it's Bridges, you know,
I don't think there are any other mismatches though. I think Detroit's a great defensive team. They play tough, they play hard, and whether it's I mean I don't know. I mean if they put Stewart on Brunson, yeah, but that's just like a switch type of thing. I'm talking about like an actual assignment.
mm,
Like they had the assignment. We're putting this little guy on Cat. Like that's an
right.
assignment versus a switch on a particular play. Yeah, on a play by
Who
play.
who's on McHale?
Probably Beasley.
To me, mid range, post, like that's another mismatch. Like again, for him to have 9 shots, that can't be. You know what I mean? You gotta double that.
It's only so many shots. I
Yeah, it's only
mean,
but so many shots. He ain't
it's
getting
only
no
so many
18.
shots.
Listen, Brunson
Somebody's
is the
gonna
head of the snake.
somebody's gonna
Brunson
be
and
nice.
Cat, yeah, somebody's in 18 shots from nah.
I
I'm
mean,
saying
unless
if you got Beasley on you, yeah, put that
But
man
the
in the
thing
post.
about it is that we're acting like the other matchups are sewn up, and Mikal Bridges is the only mismatch. There might be mismatches all over the court at the same time.
At the same time.
So I would have to go back and watch the game and break it down. Like, in this particular case, that was the only one, and we didn't go to it. The whole
I
Bridges
ain't
thing, this has been all season. How much of it is lack of assertiveness? How much of it is the scheme? How much of it is just us not Brunson not going to him? How, he's the third option, and some people can argue he's the fourth. Though for me, OG is more an opportunistic scorer. To me, I just feel like he's not somebody you're going to and setting up like he's stealing the ball and he's making layups. You drive, you find he's open, you hit him, he hits the three, they close out on him. So then he attacks the closeouts. He's not somebody where you're just like giving the ball to and like get, get
Whereas a
me,
guy
get me a
like
basket.
Bridges, you would think that they would have set plays for him to to complement his particular skill set. Like maybe running him off some screens to get him kind of like a Rip Hamilton almost. Not maybe not Rip Hamilton off screens that level, but
Even
kind of
Kerry Kittles.
yeah,
But do
kind of
you do that for your third? Like most times, your third option just gets theirs off of the first two. I don't really see a lot of plays being drawn for the third option.
yeah, but most third options are not guys that are like 47, 48% from the field scorers that have scored over 20 points in the season. You know what I mean? Like usually the third option is like a 12, 14 point guy that is not as good as we've seen Bridges be.
There's still a somewhat of a pecking. Well, I don't want to say pecking order, but in terms of who your offense runs through. So usually those third guys, when one of the first twos are out, they'll step up and they'll get more touches. They'll be more involved. When those first two are there, it's kind of difficult. Though I do agree that we need to get him more involved. He needs to get himself more involved. We do need to take advantage of the mismatches when we have them. I'm just not sure how many more shots we'll be able to get for him.
And it's
We'll
not even
see.
only him.
Or 9,
It's it.
Queen.
I don't think that it's him no tone. I just think that you're only gonna get so many shots per game. So it's gonna be on a per game basis. The next game maybe, he's the one with 14 or 15
Oh,
shots.
he's
And
he's
and
he's
OG
gonna
is the
have
one with
10 points in the first quarter next game. I guarantee it. Mikal. 10 points in the first quarter. If you want to put it on the bet, you know what I mean? Just send me my cut.
PC, little PC for TC.
Josh said they do have set plays for them. It's just that are they good enough ball handlers to make Brunson play off of them?
Not really. Not really.
All right.
Bridges is like, get it and I'm gonna pass it back, or I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna go for a shot.
Right.
He's
Right.
not really like playmaking too much, which is
Right.
like the level. I'm kind of in next season mode with Bridges a little bit. Like we need to we need
He'll get there. He'll get there.
that's something that, like, if you talk about, like, in the off season, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna bring back? How am I gonna elevate my game? Like, that is something for this team to, regardless of what happens this year, to be at championship contending level, to come back defending the championship, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, right? Like, Bridges needs to elevate his ball handling and creation for other players. Like, that's his next level value add on for this particular team. Point
The thing
forward,
about it is that I agree with you. The thing about it is that once he gets to his spot, he's so effective and so efficient there. It's like, who am I passing to? Like these guys that's rotating over, I could just, take my fade away, right? Right over him. Anybody, we've talked about OG, Cam, Brunson, Bridges. Anybody else you want to highlight?
I just want to add, not only is Mikal going to have a bounce back game, I expect Deuce to have a better performance. I also expect Shamet to have a better performance. So, that's three guys right there. And I'm not gonna say Mikal was non-existent, because I think his defensive effort was still there. I think he still was a plus on the floor. But
he was a minus 18.
He was a minus 18. Oh,
Who's this?
Mikal.
Bridges.
Who was minus 18?
Mikal.
No, Bridges. I'm sorry, minus 16.
But
minus 16.
I do think we get bounce back performances from him, from Deuce, from Shamet.
I mean, Deuce played more minutes than Shamet, than Payne, believe it or not. A few more minutes.
No, they were
another minute. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. 14-40 to 15-12. So it's a little bit more. But I mean, he only took 3 shots, right? He was 0 for 3 overall, 0 for 2 from the 3-point line. He did have, what is that? 4
assists.
He did have 4 assists. He had a steal. He turned the ball over twice. So I guess if you focus on the fact that he missed the 2 3-pointers badly, and then he had 2 turnovers, but his defense was there. He was scrappy, on the floor, getting us that possession that the ref botched, because he did not get that timeout in time, but we appreciate it.
The air ball counts as another turnover to me.
So that was 4 turnovers, because both of them were he missed badly. I don't know if that was nerves. I don't know. I don't expect that from McBride, but I'm not worried about him. He'll bounce back. He's going to have a really good game for us in game 2. You could book that. Like he'll be fine. Any thoughts on Mitchell Robinson?
Man, oh man, I was debating if I was gonna go with him as a guy, but I'm like, I can't go with him over Campaign.
Right.
Initially, but I will say this: I think Tibbs really does like the 2 big lineup. I think he's been holding out on it, even though he only had about 20 games or so to kind of see what he could do with it. But I think that's Tibbs' secret weapon. I don't know if he'll make an adjustment at all and make changing a starting lineup. I don't think he does that at all. Mm-hmm. But I think the minutes between them are gonna increase, especially when utilized at the right time. because it baffled Detroit. Last game they
I
like
thought
they
the
didn't know
Knicks
what
was
to
good.
do with they didn't know what to do with it for a short stint, and I think it only gets better the more time they spend together. You know what I mean? Like I'm still waiting for the first Cat to Mitchell Robinson live. You know what I mean? I've been dreaming about that since we got Cat over here. Um. So yeah, I just think it's gonna get better and better. But defensively, if Cat could give that effort that he showed last night, alongside with Mitchell Robinson on the floor, now you got 2 7-footers, add more length. Ideally, I think that changes a lot, and there's not a lot of film to study on it for teams to kind of counteract it, or they're gonna have to deal with it in the moment and then figure it out later. You know what I mean? So I love that secret weapon that we have. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. Individually though, Mitch is
How much?
he's finding his footing. That putback dunk,
Nice.
what? I jumped out the bed, almost fell on the floor. Uh,
How much of it though? He got 14 minutes in the first half, only 4 in the second half. How much of the 14 minutes do you think was because Josh Hart was in
in
foul
foul trouble.
trouble,
Good point.
or do you think it's just that it looked really good? Now I would say it looked good because statistically, if I'm not mistaken, I heard that the Knicks were outscored in the double big minutes.
Minutes,
Um,
okay.
that they were outscored during those minutes. And when Detroit went on their run, Towns was on the bench. We had one of our better defensive lineups in there during that time. I think Mitchell Robinson was in there. I want to say Hart was in there. Deuce might have been in there, but when they went on that run, Towns wasn't in the game. And then I'm wondering if that's why Thibodeau didn't go back to it that much, or the offense was just like that's the thing
Coaching.
with this team. When you optimize those offensive lineups, sometimes your defense is not the best. You optimize those defensive lineups, sometimes your offense is not the best. But I'm not quite sure why he didn't go back to it in the second half. But do you think? Well, what did you see out of the double big lineup that you liked, Shuttle?
Well, I want to say first, I'll answer that. But first, I want to say I just think that Detroit doesn't lend itself greatly to the pairing of Towns and Mitch together. They're not a particularly big team, and and I looked up the stats. They very rarely put Duran and Stewart in the lineup together.
Right.
Tobias Harris is their main power forward, if you will, right? And he's not really the type of big that you would ideally want Towns to be playing against. So, if anything, Detroit is a small team by comparison to most teams. So, while you don't always wait for a team to dictate if you go small or you go big, the way the Knicks are made up, they don't particularly need to go two bigs against this squad. OG can defend Tobias in a great way. Stewart's not like this huge offensive threat that you really need to take OG off of him if you're at power forward. So I just don't really respectfully think it's a great matchup doing two bigs against Detroit. Yeah, you want to kind of dictate, you want to change things up. All right, you got it in the pocket, use it for a couple of minutes, see how it goes. But I think those stats were right based on my eye test, which is that it looked like Detroit actually won the plus minus matchup in the time when they were on the court together. So I'm not necessarily anticipating a lot of it. Like I said earlier in the show, I really thought this would be more reserved for Cleveland or Boston, but you don't want those to be the first time where you're kind of doing it. So test it out a little bit here. It's Detroit. They're tough, but you got some room and some flexibility to try some different things. And this is all the type of stuff that people have been asking for from the coach.
Sure.
Try this, try that. when are you going to mix it up? So while it's not necessarily the best matchup against Detroit, he still put it out there. And, I would expect very small doses, just like we got last night, if at all, during the rest of this series.
The Knicks, to the eye test, the Knicks defense looked much better when Mitchell Robinson was in the game. I mean, the help that he's able to give OG on Cade Cunningham really helps. I mean, OG was able to get a block, because people talk about the block that OG had, but it's really because Mitchell Robinson was there to slow Cade up that OG was able to get back in the play and make the block. So yeah, I was surprised. I was listening to another show. I was surprised when they said when they said that the Knicks was outscored I was like, really? But it could just be that not necessarily defensively. The defense was okay, but outscored because they just weren't able to put up enough points during that time. It may not speak to to the defense, but we didn't see the double big lineup in the second half. We saw Mitch come in for Town. So we'll see. I think it's just something good to have. Tony, anything else you want to add to that? No. All right. I think we talked about. We didn't talk about Hart, who only played 7 minutes in that first half. Because of foul trouble, and that may have been why Shamet came in. The first part of the game, because now I'm streaming. Denver went into overtime, so now I'm watching a feed from in Spanish. First of all, I was watching the above the rim feed.
Oh, I hate that view.
And I was like, who is that? Who's that with the ball? Is that Brunson? So then I was like, let me just go to the Spanish feed, because I'm on ESPN streaming. So I went to the Spanish feed. At least I could see what was going on. I didn't know what the hell they were saying, but I could. And finally, the game was over. I was able to go back to the ESPN feed, and I didn't even know they were on MSG because I do have Gotham Sports app. I could have watched it on. They were on MSG. I would have watched it on MSG with the family.
I went through the same thing, Queen, and I didn't know they was on MSG.
I think for the first. Say that again.
I definitely caught that playback on MSG last night when I got.
That's what I'm gonna do today.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
gonna do that today.
Now.
Yeah, because I'm like, I have to listen to the. So I think for the first round, the home teams can broadcast it, but I think once the second and beyond, I don't think that they can. So I'm gonna take advantage. I'm gonna take advantage of that.
Clyde pulled out one of his playoff suits. He was styling and profiling. Wait till you see.
Right. So I say all of that to say, Shamet was in the game, and I wasn't sure, did he come in because that early was the first off the bench because Hart got into foul trouble? Was that what it is? And Tibbs wanted to go with some size? Or he was just liking the way Shamet was playing to close the season and gave him the first shot?
I'm not sure, but I know. Was he the first guy off the bench, or was Deuce the first guy off the bench?
I think Shamet was first.
Yeah, Shamet was the first one.
It was Shamet. It was Shamet. I remember.
I was surprised.
Deuce, and then Cam didn't get minutes until Brunson came out.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
any thoughts on his play?
Josh Hart, I mean, I loved his play. I mean, minus the fouls. I mean, he was doing Josh Hart things. You know what I mean? It was effort, energy everywhere. You know what I mean? His defense was stellar. I love the fact that he didn't want to come out. He kept trying to touch him. No, it's all right. I got 2, but it's all right. No, I got 3. It's all right. It's all right. You know what I mean? So
I got 4. It's all right. I'm like, look.
Yeah, he did not want to come out. But I think that's him doing what he does. It's something for him to work on for next game to kind of make sure he stay out of foul trouble. I guess the only negative is, he's a rhythm guy. You know what I mean? So hopefully this doesn't affect the limited minutes don't affect his rhythm coming into next game. Because we need him aggressive and confident in his shot and not hesitating. So that would be my only concern with his lack of minutes is how does it translate moving forward in his confidence and his aggressiveness offensively. I think the defensive aggressiveness will be there regardless.
Yeah, he was huge in transition when we got those turnovers in the fourth quarter. Just his ability to finish, and also when he was handling the ball to make the right play. Though there was a few ball handling, I was like, "Come on, get control of the ball here."
He might be one of the best finishers that I've ever seen in a Knick uniform. Just as far as like transition finishing, left hand, right hand.
Yeah,
it feels like if he's on a break, I don't care if there's a defender there. You know what I mean? Like it feels like he's gonna find a way to finish at the rim.
With and without the ball, you're talking about, because there's sometimes he don't have the ball and they pass. Listen, this is better than last year. Last year was like a straight line. If he had to move a little bit, it was going to be an offensive foul. So he's much better.
Absolutely,
he's much better this year. And even when he's on the wing and they pass it to him, he's doing And yesterday he was facilitating the break, because a lot of times when Josh Hart has the ball, you might as well just stop. Like he going coast to coast, and you kind of want him to do that because if he's like thinking and trying to, but this year I think he's been much better in transition. Whether he's passing to somebody while he's dribbling it, and yesterday he was just finishing, initiating, passing when we got those turnovers. I think he had Josh Hart. Statistically was a good game for him, even though he only played 7 minutes. He had 13 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and a block. The Knicks only turned the ball over 9 times. 9 times.
That's
I'm not sure what you said on the minutes, Steph, but he played 30 minutes.
17.
No, in the first half, I think he only played. Check the first half. I think he only played 7 in the first half.
Oh, okay.
Double check that for me.
Yeah. For your first half was about 7-8 minutes, right?
Yeah. But he made up for it in the second. In the second half, he was phenomenal.
He was huge in that 21-0 run.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I missed that, but the 21-0 run, legendary. Legendary. That's gonna. I mean, it was game 1. It's Detroit. You kind of feel like you should beat Detroit, so maybe it doesn't have the sticking power that it could have if it was a different team later in the playoffs. But but I don't know, man. 21-0, 21 zip in the playoffs. I don't care who you playing.
And starting from down 8 points, so
right.
in the fourth quarter, I don't care who you playing. 21-0 in the fourth quarter in the playoffs is legendary.
Yeah, and he hit that 3-pointer he hit. We needed it because I think we were attempting to come back during that time, and he only took one actually, and he was 6 of 10 from the Knicks shot 52.7% from the field. I still don't think they get up enough 3-pointer shots. I think they average 27 on the year, if I'm not mistaken. Last night they took 26. Like, that's just not going to cut it. You might be able to get away with that against Detroit. You're not going to. It's just going to be a numbers game if another team is taking 40, 45 3-pointers and you're taking 27. It's just a numbers game.
I was on a show with Sin last night, and I was saying how that's probably going to be Detroit's adjustment. Is shooting more threes. They were at 47%, I think.
47, 46.9, correct. So, they took 32.
So they probably like, we get to 43s, we win that game. You know what I mean? Shooting at that clip. So their game plan might be the same strategy as they may be thinking we need to take more threes as well, especially
Right.
shooting at 47%. You know what I mean?
I also understand the Knicks. Last year, that was their formula, volume. This year, they just abandoned it, even though they're very efficient from those, free throw shooting, field goal percentage, three-point shooting. I still don't.
Well,
I still don't get it.
you had Quickly
Last
for
year,
half of the year,
and you had Dante,
and you had Dante's a
who
volume
was
shooter.
shooting 10 a game.
Volume shooting.
You know what I mean? I think ideally, Shamet was supposed to fill that void as far as the volume 3-point shooting. Obviously he missed a lot of time. You know, he had to get his shot back in tip top form. So I think the goal was that. You know what I mean?
And I think to your point earlier about Shamet kind of jacking him up quickly in the shot clock and things like that, I think that's his designated role, is to be that guy to increase the volume, increase the attempts. So I don't think he's doing that like by his own volition.
You talking about Cam or Shamet?
Shamet.
I don't even see.
You're talking
I
about
don't even see. No, either one. I was just wondering who you were talking. I don't even see Shamet taking as many threes as, and I think Cat can take more threes as well.
I was
Last night
just gonna say that
he took 3. Now he only hit 1, but he shoots a decent percentage. You think about Randall last year. Randall made it his business to get up 8, 9. I said they must be telling him to shoot. They have to be in his ear telling him to put it up. Nobody is in Cat's ear saying you got to take at least 5 a game.
Because Queen, if they wasn't in his ear telling him to shoot him, they would have been in his ear telling him to stop.
Right.
Nah, I agree. I would like more 3-point attempts from Cat as well. And I've heard that all year from even I think Doris mentioned it last night. He's 40% for the 3. I don't know why he doesn't shoot more.
Because to me, you helping the other team. And again, I don't think it's going to hurt you against Detroit. But if we play Boston, and this series is not over by any stretch, and they shooting 53s and you shooting 27, I don't care what else you are doing. At in 2-point range, you're going to lose the numbers game. It's just not going to be enough, unless you're taking I don't know, 25 more shots than they're taking.
David Smith in the chat, he mentioned, just under that one, if you want to put the next one up after. He's
that Cat has a hand injury.
And that could be why his shots, because if you think about it, I want to say his 3-point attempts did drop drastically after that injury. His attempts per game. So that could be a long-term reasoning why he's picking and choosing, his shots.
Right. All right. I got 2 questions for the next game and we can get out of here. Anything you're concerned with for game 2 that we may have gotten away with in game 1 that we need to shore up for the next one? Shuttle, we'll start with you.
I'm going to say it. I said it once, I said it twice, and I said it 3 times. The hardest team is Cade Cunningham. You have to focus on this guy. You have to focus on this guy. You have to focus on this guy. That's how much focus you need. You know what I mean? You got to focus on this guy. You got to limit him, make him shoot poor percentages, make him have turnovers, make him earn everything he gets. And, whatever I get from OG on offense is icing on the cake. If I get the type of defense that I want from Cade Cunningham, the type of defense it'll take to put the nail in the coffin on this team.
No.
And that's just what I need OG to focus on, and the team surrounding him to also focus on. I think there's enough offensive firepower to go around, where I don't think scoring is going to be an issue, despite Detroit's good defense. And there's just too many options here on this team on offense, so I'm not worried. Recognize Cat's mismatch when they put the little guys on him, and OG's defense on Cade. That's those are my two keys to the entire series.
All right, Tony.
Um, I'm just reading the chat. Shout out to Josh. He says turnovers. I think we only had 9 turnovers for the game. I don't think that was a
Maybe points for turnovers for making them turn the ball over.
well, yeah, and that's where I was gonna go on the flip side. I think us having them turn the ball over and getting points off of turnovers. Now that wasn't a area that we lacked in. That was something that we thrived in, but I feel like that's going to be a key for us to continue to succeed, turning defense into offense. We've top 3 all year, I think, in that stat. We got to keep relying on that. You know what I mean? We got to keep making those turnovers lead to points, because that
They had 15 points off of our turnover.
Yeah, 15
and we had
points.
25 off of theirs.
See,
And it
Josh
was 9
turnovers, and he is talking about the Knicks, and maybe
9.
that's why he's mentioning it, because 15 points off turnovers. If I don't know how many turnovers you made, 15 points off turnovers seems pretty significant.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And to think that the team only had 9 turnovers, but they got 15 points off of that.
But that's the defense after the turnovers, though.
Mm-hmm.
And the Knicks are actually pretty good on. Oh, I don't have it with me. Opponent points off turnovers, so they usually do a pretty good job when they turn the ball over defending. I think they're 3 on opponent points on defense, but you couldn't tell last night. They only had 9 turnovers and they gave up 15 points. So I don't know if it's about turning the ball over less as much as it's about when you do turn it over.
Recover.
How do you recover and prevent the scoring? Because once they were in transition, that's when the Knicks having a difficult time last night recognizing who needs to be covered. Beasley was open at least once, and I think twice, wide open.
Down the stretch twice. During that 21-0 run, he missed 2 wide open threes that could have stopped the bleeding for them, and they were wide open because we missed. You know what I mean? We missed the transition rotation. Right. So I agree with that. I'm gonna go with Mikal though. I'm gonna go with Shamet, and I'm gonna go with Deuce. Those 3 guys, I feel like
redemption, like the redemption game for them.
Yeah, we dodged the bullet with them with their kind of output. But now, if we could get some output from them, I think that changes the game early. You know what I mean? That could kind of put I know you don't think they're gonna fold early, but I think we get them down early. I think we could get them to kind of fold the game. It's gotta be big though.
Well, after what happened yesterday, it's possible. I didn't think that would happen in game 1 though. But I mean, listen, anything is possible. Sometimes when you go back and see the film, you feel like, oh man, if we just shore that up right there, we're gonna have a good chance of winning. We'll see. I don't expect this team to give up. We didn't really talk about Thibodeau specifically, like thoughts on Tibbs. We kind of sprinkled it in. But if you want to talk about what you saw in game 1 and what you want to see from him in game 2, let's do that.
Go, Shut.
Tibbs is my guy, so I'm glad to see, even though it wasn't necessarily a calling for the Twin Towers, that he still sprinkled it in. I was glad to see that Cam was hot in the 4th. He gave him extended minutes. Was glad to see that he needed Shamet more in the 1st. He used him in the 2nd half. He didn't say, all right, it's Shamet's night, so he's going to get all the minutes. And, Hart executed. Tibbs more of the same, just keeping the pulse of the team, and you know, just keeping the team locked in and focused. And when you hear the coaches and the players giving you the same rhetoric in the post game conferences, that lets you know, despite what you think, the players and the coaches are one. And let's keep that synergy, and let's just keep tweaking and just game by game making the adjustments as we need.
Yeah, yeah. Tom.
I'm riding with my coach as well, man. You know what I mean? Good. You mentioned all the adjustments that we've seen him do this past game. Um, yeah, just continue to let the hot hand stay out there a couple extra minutes. Continue to read who's not shooting well or who doesn't have it tonight, and maybe go with another guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I got nothing negative to say about him, and I think he did a great job. He has a good track record against Bickerstaff. I don't know if that's the reasoning, you know what I mean. But just continue to explore options and find the hot hand, ride the hot hand, seek out mismatches. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, and who knows what their adjustments are going to be. So what's the counter to to their adjustments? So I'm definitely looking for that. He went 9 yesterday. Usually in last night in the playoffs, sometimes he goes 7. He went 9 last night, and it didn't turn out that way. But it seemed like in the first quarter, those guys got a lot of rest. But when you look at the final, they still play close to 40, 40 minutes a game, which happens, right? In the playoffs, your best players do play more minutes. But I felt like Brunson, Cat, you got extended minutes in that first half. I'm like, yo, when we bring Cat back? When we bring in OG back. Now, this is to the eye test. It could have been their regular minutes. But to me, it just seemed like they were getting like longer stretches um, in that first half. I said, let me find out. Tibbs is like giving them an extended rest so that they could be fresher in the second half. I'm not sure if that was the case, but I just noticed that one he went
OG
9.
played 44 minutes, so I
He did.
don't
He
know what you
did.
could have
Hey,
missed.
how many K played? Because I'm always go back to where Tim said, hey, if Tate's in the game,
39.
if Tate's in the game, OG's gonna be in the game. If Tatum's in the game, OG's gonna be in the game.
39.
So,
Yeah.
so that's what
What was
five.
the first half minutes?
I don't have that. I don't have that sheet.
Yeah.
I don't have it up.
Yeah, I have it.
So he had 5 more
They
minutes
probably
than Tate.
played. They probably played even. It just seemed to me that they were on the bench a
Steph,
lot. Yeah, it
Steph
was.
was watching
Mikal
the
played
first.
14. Yeah, Brunson played 20. OG played 20. So still about half of his minutes was both. Carl Anthony Towns played 19. But it just seemed to me that they seem to be on the bench. Maybe because I'm like, yo, this game is too close. Yo, what's up? Where's OG at? Like, how much rest he need? But yeah, when you look at it, OG played 21 in the first. Carl
I better
Anthony
not hear
Towns
Steph
19
talking
in the
about
first.
players he did now play too much minutes. OG played 44 minutes, and she said, "Where's OG?"
In the
He
first
played,
half, I said that.
he played
In the first
20 out
half,
of
I
20,
did.
20 out of
Yeah, yeah.
24 minutes.
I'm just saying what it seemed like. When I look now at the first half, he played 21. He played 21 minutes.
It
But
be
when
like that
when when
sometimes.
that game was real close, I'm like, yo, where OG at? Like, how much run? Like, yo, where's Towns? He getting a lot of rest over there.
It's like yo, he just sat down, but I get it.
But see,
It's
but
like-
I gotta be honest with you. I know there's people that have this mentality like the regular season doesn't matter as much, and you got to rest the players and load management and all this kind of stuff. I don't know, but I feel like that every game. I feel like that every game. You understand what I'm saying? Not specific to OG, but just about the best players being out there for the most amount of minutes. You see, Josh Hart didn't want to come out when he had foul trouble. It's no different if he's a little tired. He don't want to come out. And if you care and you passionate and you want to win every game, and those are the players that I want on my team, you don't want to come out.
Yeah.
So, the minutes police, y'all gotta relax.
In the first half, Shaman had 10, his only 10 minutes. Mitchell Robinson, is that the first half? Is this the game? Mitchell Robinson had 14 in the first half. And Deuce had almost 10, 9.5 minutes in the first half. And usually that's a game for them, except for McBride. McBride gets more minutes than that. Any last words? Anything else before we get out of here? Shout out to the chat. Let me shout out the chat. Size 9, appreciate you. Curtis D. Young, I appreciate you. Kevin Bergen, Ron, still Nick fans, appreciate you. Stacks Manzadu, I hope I got that right. East Blue Drew, Sherman was in the house earlier. On Dios N1K in the house. Let's see. NYK Bro 99, Josh, aka Uncle Fulio, appreciate you. Nostalgic Nick Jarrell was in the house. JM 3000, David Smith, huge Cat fan in the house. Want to know why we always giving Cat the business and giving Brunson a pass. Appreciate you. My brother, Brandu 1973. I'm not going to get to everybody, Bob, but I appreciate you guys. Long Island Sound 1, I appreciate you. I think
Strong Island.
Strong Island. Super. Hit them up. NYNJ. NJ, I appreciate you. Again, my apologies for being late. That sunrise service with my auntie, which is, I don't know what they mean by sunrise down here, but anyway, that's just when you start. It has it don't mean you're going to finish early. I think I read that wrong. Any last words?
Yes. For those that missed it. Beef stew, brown stew, oxtail stew, Nixon 5. Tobias Harris, Lucius Harris, Eric and Parrish, Nixon 5. Kay Cunningham, Richie Cunningham, Green Eggs and Ham, Nixon 5. Malik Beasley, Michael Beasley, Easy Peasy, Lemon Squeezy, Nixon 5.
Yes, Knicks in 5. Any last word, Tony?
Let's get it. I just want to, say I appreciate you having me on. I don't make it on your channel that often, so it is special to me when I get here. So I'm glad
it's special to me as well. I appreciate you.
And
and DJ Shuttle. Yeah. Tomorrow, Queens Court, 6 p.m. because the Knicks play at 7:30, so Queens Court will go a little earlier, and then we'll preview the game. I'm going to check with Sim because if he's doing a preview show, then we may or may not do Queens Court. So I'll talk to him, but tentatively tomorrow, Monday, Queens Court, 6 p.m. We'll keep you posted if we need to change it or skip it for this week, and then Tuesday. On this channel, the weekly show will be Tuesday evening because the Knicks play Thursday. So we'll do the weekly show Tuesday evening. And Tuesday morning, 8 a.m., me and Jeff doing a recap show. So for all the shows that fall on the weekday, Jeff and I will be doing an 8 a.m. weekly recap show. If it falls on the weekend, we'll do it. We'll do it a little later. But that's 7 a.m. for Jeff, who's in Texas, but he said he's going to do it. He said he could do it. That's a great time for him. So before you go to work, make sure you have those notifications on Tuesday morning so you could catch me and Jeff breaking down game 2, Detroit versus New York, I should say, versus Detroit. All right.
And if I may, Steph, if you're in the New York area, Harlem, Bronx, Queens, Jersey, Connecticut, just started a new Friday night at a spot called Mingles in the Bronx, right by the Mount Vernon area. Nice spot. We did every Friday night. We're doing a special grand opening for the first, few weeks. Everybody free until midnight. We're going from 9 p.m. to 3. Happy hour specials, all of that with my team, All City Promo. And it's a big deal.
Is every
How
Friday?
long are you going to be doing that?
Right now it's, until we're not doing it.
Okay. So it's not like a 3-month thing of, okay. All right, I'll be back in New York.
It might be 3 weeks. It might be 3 months. It might be 3 weeks. I can't call it right now. Yeah, I mean,
Listen,
we're doing it till we're not doing it.
If it's based on how you get down, this is going to be a long-term thing. I was able to catch DJ Shuttle live. Yeah, it was nice. He was hitting all the classics, it was just a great mix. But I'm old school, so it was good to hear those disco classics, those club classics,
Friday.
I should say.
Club
Friday, classics, so. Not disco, club classics.
Yeah,
say it again.
It's Flashback Friday. She was saying it was disco. It wasn't disco.
It wasn't disco, right?
She had the conditions.
Disco
disco music.
I caught the tail end of that era too.
Nah. I mean, listen, disco is disco, man. Like disco is, the stuff was charged up during that time. They was having a good time in the disco era.
Yeah.
I seen the videos. I wasn't there, but I seen the videos.
No doubt. Until next time, family.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Go so.
Where you at?